surveillance software. The software called Pegasus, developed by the company, can be used to record conversations and gain access to photos, text messages, and websites viewed from a smartphone. And it was founded in Israel. Now, the NSO group does not have a long history. It has a short, rather dense history. I mean, they've done a lot to push espionage to be more and more prevalent since their official founding in 2010. But before I get into what the NSO group has been up to, it would help to take a look at the web of connections to the NSO group first. At the bottom of the Bloomberg page for the NSO group, they have these other relevant stories related to them from the past 6 months or so. If we look back to May 28, 2018, we'll see that they were in talks with Verint Systems to merge their security division with the NSO group. But then, less than 2 months later, the talks ended without a deal being reached. But now, from only 5 days ago, the NSO group is in talks to buy Fifth Dimension. According to their own website, Fifth Dimension is the technology leader in law enforcement investigation and analysis solutions. The company's unified investigation platform was built specifically to utilize advanced analytics to assist police analysts and investigators solve more cases faster. So they developed technology to assist law enforcement, and their chairman of the board is retired Lieutenant General Benny Gantz. He's a former chief of general staff for the Israeli Defense Force. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean that everything Israel does is bad, and it doesn't mean everything that the IDF does is bad. I did this research for a reason that I'll get to here soon, but this connection between the Israeli military and this surveillance technology group is crucial, because it goes even deeper. Ram Ben Barak is the Fifth Dimension Advisory Board member, and he was the deputy head of Mossad, the National Intelligence Agency of Israel. Doron Cohen, the CEO and founder, has spent 30 years at the forefront of the Israeli intelligence community. And now they could potentially be bought by the NSO group, and they're filled with people connected to the Israeli government through the intel arms in the military, and a private firm that develops surveillance software is talking with them. So now you see why Edward Snowden issued a warning to Israelis to be on guard against heavy-handed government and private surveillance. NSO Group is a private firm bought by Francisco Partners in 2014, which is also a private firm. Snowden also specifically mentioned the NSO Group, but what many don't know is that the government is embedded in these private firms. It almost really doesn't matter though, because the NSO Group sells to governments all around the world anyways. They're famous for their Pegasus software. I mean, as of September 18th of this year, there was evidence that the NSO Group's surveillance products were being used in 45 countries, including 6 operators linked to countries with a history of abusing spyware to target civil society. I tend to wonder what kind of criteria they use for that, because I could see far more than 6 out of these 45 countries abusing spyware to target citizens. Numerous countries listed have authoritarian governments, and some like Bahrain and the UAE even have trade bans on Israeli companies. I linked the entire report below, but there are cases where we've seen this technology being used to target someone specifically. A UAE human rights defender was attacked by NSO's 0 Days iPhone hack that would have installed spyware on the man's iPhone 6 so that they can access his camera and microphone whenever they choose. Now pair this with Fifth Dimension's analysis software and you have sophisticated voice, video, and data analysis. Another example of NSO's software being used against someone is in the case of Jamal Khashoggi, who was killed at the Saudi embassy in Istanbul recently. Snowden claims that they targeted Khashoggi because they infected the devices of one of his other contacts that happened to be another Saudi dissident living in Canada. The Saudis determined that Khashoggi was worth their time based on information collected using the NSO's spyware on this other man's devices. Khashoggi was working with this Canadian Saudi dissident on several projects, one of which was an initiative to build an online army inside of Saudi Arabia. I mean, that alone is speculated as most likely leading to Khashoggi's death. And it's not specified if NSO software was installed on Khashoggi's devices, but it appears that the Saudis would have gotten everything that they needed from Khashoggi's friend alone. Another case of this being used was in Mexico against backers of Mexico's soda tax. The NSO group also has connections to several Mexican agencies with more than $15 million spent in 3 years. Something even more terrifying for Americans, as of last August, the Drug Enforcement Agency had a meeting with the NSO group, and Motherboard reportedly obtained DEA emails, basically just showing that the purpose of the meeting was for the NSO group to demonstrate their products. So now the DEA is stepping up their game by employing the help of an Israeli surveillance technology firm. They wouldn't be getting a demonstration of their products without both some idea of what the NSO group produces and an intention of using it in some capacity. So you can say, well, they can't use it to spy on us, but look at everything that Snowden has uncovered about the CIA and the NSA. Vault 7 released through WikiLeaks is entirely because of Snowden. The NSA will not only dig through the life of someone deemed a potential enemy of the state, but the CIA will manipulate the population with fake hacks from foreign governments. They're not slowing down, and the DEA getting a hold of NSO products is just the start of another whole wave of police state surveillance. I understand surveillance of public places and privately owned public places. I understand having technology to make emergency responders as efficient as possible, but hacking phones and tracking people and eavesdropping are a violation of the non-aggressive right to privacy. Abandoning that right to privacy leads us right into a police state using mass surveillance. Unfortunately, looking at the tech giants, including the lesser-known NSO group, that seems to be closer to the reality that we're facing. And as a final note in this video, Julian Assange has been secretly charged in the US. This was apparently announced as a cut and paste error from the Justice Department, and they didn't mean to reveal the draft of charges against Assange, but it was already reported previously that US prosecutors were talking about charging Assange in the hopes of pushing for his expulsion from the Ecuadorian embassy. And as that story develops, I'll cover it more, so I've linked all my sources below as always, and I made sure that this video covered as much information as I could find, and I drew some new connections here that I haven't seen others draw. So if you like this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, donation and Patreon